Now, stan or fan culture is by no means a modern invention. Long before cringy TikTok edits, fan cams being spammed in Twitter reply sections, people were fainting at concerts at the heels of their favourite bands such as the Beatles, Queen, just in general, your favourite artists and celebrities for years outside of the internet and the 2000s have had flocks of fans, and some could be considered stans. There have always been individuals who obsess and dedicate themselves to a famous person, and for the vast majority of people, this type of hyperfixation or hyperfandom is usually relatively harmless and just a fun way for a community of, in a lot of cases, younger fans to celebrate the celebrities or content creators that they love and appreciate. But if there's one story that I've learned on the internet over the years, it's that sometimes in these categories of people, stans, fans, whatever you want to call them, people that hyperfixate on content creators and famous people, not necessarily saying that I'm famous, but if there's something I've noticed over the years, it's sometimes a few specific individuals take it a little bit too far. You can think of any fandom, any content creator, any celebrity. Again, I'm not saying that I'm a celebrity, but there are celebrities out there, and you will find instances of someone in a fan base taking it too far and going, well, honestly, just quite crazy. And over the 10 years of being a content creator, I have witnessed this a countless amount of times. Content creators come and go, and with that come rabid fan bases, who in those fan bases, you will find individuals that do things that honestly, a human being should not do, and they should probably reevaluate their life choices. The concept of being parasocial or a parasocial relationship for years now has been a debate which particularly peaked between the early 2020s when large Minecraft audiences got big and a lot of people started to have conversations about certain people in certain audiences. And it seems that a remnant of that forgotten time period has somehow managed to appear out of nowhere, because today we're going to be speaking about a specific person who recently has been going viral for all of the wrong reasons that I mentioned in the introduction of this video. Imagine a fan or a stan at the worst possible extent. Imagine somebody who really does not know when to quit. Somebody who will dedicate their entire life to a content creator that they have never met, to the point of where they are apparently considering moving across continents just to meet this person. And there are a lot of stories, a lot of allegations, a lot of things being said about this person. So without further ado, meet Tyler Catastrophe. Now, at first glance, you may mistake this individual as just yet again another dedicated fan running a dedicated fan page. But as you keep on scrolling through this person's social media, you will begin to realize the sheer volume and intensity of their content, and that this person is a little bit unhinged in their dedication to a particular individual. And you may be wondering, well, who is this person obsessing over? Who is this person choosing to dedicate their life to? Well, it's this guy. Yes, meet Wilbur Soot, an individual that I'm sure quite a lot of you are familiar with. And yes, Tyler, or Tyler Catastrophe, I will be referring to him as Tyler in this video, has been going viral at the time of recording this video in 2026 for pretty much just every wrong possible reason that a stan could go viral for. And what I want to do today is go through the entire timeline of what has taken place in this story. I want to actually go through into the topic of who actually is Tyler and where did they originate from, and then I want to get into everything that's taken place over the last 3 years on this person's social media. Because yes, it is a pretty crazy ride where a lot of wild things have been said. But now, getting actually into this story today, I feel like the best possible place we can start is not actually with Tyler, but is instead with Wilbur Soot. Given the context of everything that has taken place in this story, it is important to know who Wilbur Soot is just at a base level and what actually took place with Wilbur Soot a few years ago. Because given the context of why in 2026 Tyler Catastrophe has faced a large amount of criticism, it is extremely relevant. So yes, who actually is Wilbur Soot? Well, Wilbur at one point was honestly an absolutely beloved content creator, initially gaining fame in around 2018 to 2019 via a group channel that he ran with his friends called Soot House, where they made a lot of comedic videos together, Reddit videos, reaction videos. It was going very, very well in those years for Wilbur, and it eventually led into Wilbur in 2020 joining a famous collaboration-based streaming channel called the Dream SMP. And I understand there are a few people watching this video right now that probably would have just got whiplash, because yes, of course, Wilbur joined the Dream SMP. Yes, there were other Minecraft collaborations previously, but it was really the Dream SMP where Wilbur garnered a large amount of fame. Because yes, from the Dream SMP, Wilbur started to develop an extremely dedicated audience. He was arguably, in 2020, one of the biggest content creators about. He was simply everywhere, skyrocketing himself to fame, which then led him to take up one of his hobbies and make it more of a main career path when he started a band called Lovejoy. And at that point in 2020 and 2021, things were just going pretty tremendously for this guy. Like, I remember seeing how much Wilbur was blowing up, and it was genuinely something that I've never witnessed before, especially considering that I am in the UK community, he is in the UK community. It was such a fascinating thing to see him go from Soot House to Lovejoy and Dream SMP. In general, this guy was doing absolutely incredibly in terms of social media. But behind the scenes, it was very clear that things weren't right only a few years later when everything around Wilbur came crashing down. Because yes, in 2024, Wilbur's ex-partner Shelby started up a live stream in which she spoke about a past abuse situation with an unnamed partner that she had personally experienced. Shelby spoke about a variety of issues, such as how this situation wasn't a thing of punching or hitting, but it was actually to do with biting, and biting will become something just synonymous with Wilbur Soot basically forever from this point.
When I hear about physical abuse, I think of hitting. I think of hitting and punching. So I thought that this wasn't violent enough to be abuse. I thought that it was just like a constant accident that he kept hurting me. But he's not hitting me. And it didn't start as something that he did to hurt me. He had this habit of biting, which is so weird to me now, but he said that he had had this habit since he was a kid, and even his mom said that that was true. And he said it was just affectionate, and that might have been, I think that might have been true maybe at the start, but I also feel that I have good reason to believe that every part of it was a lie, but that's just my personal opinion. And I had no problem with just biting. That isn't even the most uncommon thing. But he did mention something early that I should have taken as a red flag. And he wanted to make sure that I was okay with him biting me because he didn't want me to come back later and say that he abused me, which I thought was really weird considering he had never hurt me before. And so why would I call it abuse? And why was he thinking about that? And I thought he was being sweet, checking on me to make sure that I was still comfortable. But of course I was, because he hadn't hurt me. And why would I think he ever would? And then he did for the first time by accident. And I don't specifically remember the actual first time that he bit me too hard by accident because I didn't think that it would be significant. I thought that it would only happen once. And he started biting me more and more over a period of time, sort of throughout the whole relationship. And accidents of him biting too hard and really hurting me happened more and more frequently. But he always seemed genuinely sorry. And he decided that he didn't want to keep accidentally hurting me. So we were going to use a safe word. So he could learn where my limit was, where my pain tolerance ended.
Now, yes, at this point of time when people were watching this live stream, there was a lot of shock, there was a lot of concern, and of course the individual that Shelby was talking about had not been named in this live stream, and of course that was going to lead to questions of who is Shelby talking about. And of course, speculating about an abusive situation is obviously not a good thing, and at that point of time there were a lot of people condoning people for trying to point the blame on certain influencers. But naturally, people's minds were wondering, and it's pretty hard not to. Because with what was being described by Shelby, it was very clear that this was serious. Shelby spoke about how this individual would bite her, and she would shout out in pain, how there were bruises all over her arm, and apparently the person would poke at them, and even joke about the bruises, where they would state that it's like that they are abusing her.
I didn't like it, and I tried telling him over and over again because he wasn't actually trying at all to not hurt me. But he said he would try at first. And then he started saying things like it was my pain tolerance that was too low, or I'm exaggerating how much it actually hurts. He's not even biting that hard. I'm being dramatic. But his biting escalated to a point where I was covered in bruises all over my arms, and they hurt, and he would poke at them for fun. And he even felt so comfortable showing off my bruises that he had caused to our friends because he would bite me so hard by accident. By accident, he would even joke that it looked like he abused me. And eventually he did acknowledge how bad it looked.
Now, yes, obviously at the time and still to this day, this was absolutely horrible to hear, especially considering Shelby herself was very much a beloved person in the streaming community. She is someone that for years had also built up a very big community for herself. So for her audience to hear that she had had to endure and experience this horrific treatment, it absolutely was a shock to her audience. And honestly, I think a lot of people didn't really know how to react to this situation. Especially with the detail that Shelby continues to get into. There were mentions of safe words where Shelby confirmed that yes, her and this unnamed individual did have a safe word, but it very much got to a point of where it felt like this safe word was weaponized, where the person was pretty much just biting down as hard as they possibly could to almost seemingly test the safe word. Shelby confirmed that she had to sometimes yell out because it hurt so badly, and according to her, the figure would purposely clamp down even harder before then letting go. And this safe word is a very important part of this story because a certain title, Catastrophe, is going to weaponize that element of the story later on, but we will leave that there. But of course, this is absolutely terrible, and there is a lot more that we could get to. I'm definitely skimming through the story here, but what you really need to know is what I've told you so far. But as I said, people were speculating, people were concerned and wanted to know who is Shelby talking about, because Shelby seemingly in the past had had speculation that she was dating certain other content creators throughout her history as an influencer. It's a pretty normal thing. Content creators date content creators, and certain individuals because of that were having blame pointed at them. And a lot of that came from some of the things that Shelby said in her live stream that now appeared to be some form of clues. And of course, I'm not saying that Shelby deliberately left clues, it was just her honest story. But yes, some of the things that she said were being used as clues, and the main clue being the British element. Because in Shelby's video, she did mention that this whole thing took place in Britain because the person she dated was living in a house in Britain that got to a point of where there was an ant infestation due to how disgusting and filthy the house was, and the person defended it by stating that this is just a regular thing that happens in British houses, which I need to confirm. I've lived in a lot of council houses. I definitely have lived in some pretty shitty places, and we've never had an ant infestation. So I don't know what this person was doing, but it definitely isn't a normal thing. And yes, these clues led to internet users naturally putting the dots together, and as you can see in this Reddit post here, it says many are speculating that Wilbur abused Shelby, where they link screenshots of friends of Wilbur mentioning that Wilbur had an ant problem at his house, and on top of that, Wilbur in the past had apparently stated that he did not take care of himself during lockdowns and did not take care of his home, which of course was something that Shelby had said in her live stream.
And I'm not saying any of this next part to be mean. He lived in filth like I have never seen. And I've seen filth. This was the worst. He would spill things on the floor and literally never clean them up. He got an ant infestation once and wasn't going to do anything about it because he said, bugs are normal in British houses.
Now look, unfortunately, I am British, and I do need to confirm to you that, again, this is not something that takes place in British households for the most part, and is usually something that happens when, well, you spill something, a fizzy drink with sugar in it, you'll leave it out, maybe the door's open, and then, of course, an ant may come in and it may lead to more ants, but that's not usually something that happens in even a relatively clean household. It doesn't need to be sparkling clean, you just need to clean up after yourself. And something Shelby would speak about in her live stream is that, well, Wilbur would spill things and just not clean these things, and yeah, stuff like that, especially in the UK, will actually lead to an ant infestation. That, of course, is filth and not taking care of yourself, and of course, things are starting to line up here. But then speculation only continued after people started tweeting out old videos of friends of Wilbur Soot speaking about Wilbur Soot's previous biting habits, and yes, that sounds like a joke, but it actually is something that Wilbur had apparently got up to in his time with his friends.
To me?
Yeah.
He keeps biting me.
Yeah.
Actually, Will bites both me sometimes, and I get so many bruises all the time from him biting me.
I thought you were saying that you bite people.
No, Will bites me.
Will hurt me more with biting. Wilbur Soot has bitten me harder than that.
Yeah.
He just bites everyone. He'd bite you.
Never bit me, Mary Ma'am.
He would. Wilbur Soot bites.
You're on the boat, thanks.
Now yeah, obviously this, the filth and everything else, it was all very much lining up that Shelby's story was about Wilbur Soot. Now, Shelby at that point had not confirmed anything, she had not said that it was Wilbur, and in fact, the person that confirmed that this was about Wilbur was Wilbur himself. Because yes, on the 27th of February, Wilbur Soot posted a response to these allegations where he confirms that it was him that Shelby was speaking about. And yes, for context's sake, we are going to go through this. In the past week, a series of allegations have been made over my conduct from an ex-girlfriend. I want to emphasize that although I feel it fair to offer my perspective, this person's feelings are completely valid. I have taken my time sharing the statement as I want to process and respond respectfully and with the hope to gain a deeper understanding for the situation. During our relationship's final months, I regrettably became slobbish, disrespectful, and selfish. These actions caused a lot of pain to my ex-girlfriend, and I have since sought therapy to address these behaviors, making significant lifestyle changes to rectify my past actions. I have come to realize how much my past behavior hurt this person, but I truly, compassionately believe that I have made great strides from the person I once was, and I hope I can continue to grow and improve on this trajectory. Now, this was the first half to the apology, and honestly, even looking back like 2 years later, the immediate thing that I noticed with this apology is it is very self-centered. Like, he says here that basically Shelby's feelings are valid and he's trying to be respectful, but I'm not really seeing an immediate apology. It's just me, I've gone to therapy, I'm becoming a better person. Which, in my case personally, I have never really believed somebody's apology when they started off with an entire section about themselves and not just, I'm sorry. You know, I feel like a better way to do this would be to flip the apology, because, spoiler alert, he does go on to apologize. But if you wanted to show that you actually do care, put the apology at the beginning. Make it heartfelt and not seem like he had an early version of ChatGPT to write this apology. Because yes, in the second section, Wilbur says, the allegations of abuse, particularly in the form of biting, deeply shocked me. Throughout our relationship, I understand from our numerous conversations and text messages exchanges on the subject that this behavior was consensual, playful, and reciprocally enjoyed. To truly believe those personal message exchanges reflect mutual affection and understanding, out of respect for her, I chose not to publish them, and I emphasize my perspective is not shared to diminish or invalidate anyone's feelings. I mean, it is. You wouldn't include it if it wasn't. The reason you're saying that is because you're trying to play both sides here. You know people will get angry at you denying these things and it basically victim blaming, but also you want to put out a denial. You want to say that this isn't true, which then makes this next part even more confusing. Because he says, instead, I share it in the hope that I can offer a genuine, fair, and relevant insight into my understanding of the situation. While I may perceive our interactions differently, I recognize that this person has processed and expressed feelings of hurt. I want to extend my sincerest apologies for any pain that I caused. I am fully committed to understanding and addressing her concerns going forward. I hope my perspectives shed light on this situation without detracting from its message. I am dedicated to earning and maintaining the trust of those around me, and I hope I continue to be held to these high standards I wish to attain and maintain. Will. Now, immediately out of the gate, I feel like this apology is genuinely bad. Even 2 years later, I don't necessarily think it has aged well. And yes, growing and changing is absolutely something people can do, but your whole first response was about you and you going to therapy. It was not an immediate jump into an apology, and in fact, only the last part of the apology was an apology. And that, to a lot of people, was very, very aggravating. And also, it speaks about consent in this situation, and whilst that will be a debate that he is probably going to push for the rest of time, Shelby specifically spoke about in her live stream that the idea of having a safe word was weaponized against her, and it was used as a way to pretty much bite as much as possible.
He started biting me more and more over a period of time, sort of throughout the whole relationship, and accidents of him biting too hard and really hurting me happened more and more frequently.
And there were, of course, the references to laughing about abuse and laughing about that type of stuff going on, and also about the clamping down on the arm and how she had to pretty much scream in pain when it came to the safe word. It pretty much felt that, yes, there was a safe word, but from what I can see, it was almost just used as an excuse to try and push the barriers. And it very much felt that a lot of people had the same feeling. But also, if you truly do not believe these allegations to be true, then why would you apologize? Why would you say sorry? None of it makes sense. Why would you refer to pain that may have been caused? This response is just trying to play both sides, and it absolutely went down terribly. And yeah, immediately it led to him being ratioed in the reply section. And in fact, a large amount of the replies were actually former associates of Wilbur, saying things such as how the response was terrible, but it doesn't surprise them at all, and how that they've witnessed Wilbur apparently be manipulative to so many people around them, and it's clear that he hasn't changed a bit. They state, your apology is so self-centered, and you're more concerned about your own career than the amount of harm you've caused. And yeah, that pretty much at the time, and still to this day, is the general consensus surrounding this situation between Shelby and Wilbur. It seems that most people are on Shelby's side, and of course there's always going to be debate in every single situation, but overall, Wilbur Soot came out of this looking terrible, and he never even got close to the heights that his career was once at between the years of 2019 and 2023. Most of Wilbur's peers no longer wanted anything to do with him, and he pretty much just vanished from the internet for a good period of time. It very much felt that the story was over, and that pretty much was that. Wilbur's very dedicated fan base that I mentioned at the beginning of this, well, that became a very, very small fan base. In fact, the majority of it just faded off into obscurity. But of course, there was some fans that remained, and in that fan base, of course, there were a lot of people, a lot of interesting individuals, because it definitely does take an interesting individual to stand by somebody after everything that took place. And there was one person that stood by Wilbur more than anybody. And with that, it takes us back to the individual known as Tyler Catastrophe. So yes, for the third time, meet Tyler Catastrophe, the person that I briefly introduced you to at the beginning of this video. It's time to talk about everything to do with this individual. Because yes, in 2026, Tyler Catastrophe has been making a name for himself for pretty much all of the wrong reasons, and it all is attributed to Wilbur Soot.
I'm here to tell you happy birthday, because it is your birthday, so have a very happy birthday. Hope your life isn't short.
But the question is, who is Tyler? Well, Tyler is a 27-year-old self-proclaimed haver of skills, maker of things, doer of stuff. It is incredibly Reddit coded. It's, to be honest with you, that entire bio screams I am a millennial Reddit user. But alas, that is who Tyler is. And also, yes, Tyler is a major fan of Wilbur Soot. At the time of recording this video, multiple videos have been going viral recently about this man's obsession. It is to a level of which you could describe as unhinged, where it's getting to a point of where this individual is being speculated to have considered to move to Brighton to be near Wilbur. And given the sheer virality of this individual, it really did have me wondering, how does somebody get to this point? How does somebody get to a point of where they have basically dedicated their entire well-being in life to one individual, to the point of where they've now defended Wilbur Soot in the Shelby situation multiple times, as you'll see in this video, and it really has me fascinated to wonder, how can someone get to this point? So what I want to do in this chapter is explore the origins of this individual, and not to garner sympathy for the individual, but to just understand, because as somebody that does this for a job, sometimes I do get confused with a lot of the people that I talk about, and this person definitely confuses me. Are they doing it for clout? Is it a real obsession? Well, let's find out. Now, Tyler Catastrophe, also known as Tyler Salona, was born on April the 15th, 1999.
Would you send a birthday card to a stranger, yes or no? Because I'm going to be 26 in a week. Like April 15th specifically.
Now, I just realized at the time of recording this video, it's actually his birthday. Well, don't comment happy birthday. Now, Tyler was originally born in Oklahoma. If you're from Oklahoma, I'm sorry to let you know that. But eventually, he ended up relocating to Texas. But honestly, when you take a brief look at this person's social media, Tyler just comes off as a pretty successful business person. They come off as somebody who really is just living the dream of running their own business and making a lot of money from their business, according to them.
My attention, some of you still don't know who I am. But luckily, I do! And since I'm currently in the process of using my art and jewelry as a means to move all the way from Texas to the UK, in the hopes of acquiring some variation of a global talent visa so I can continue my work, I think it might be time to brag a little. So hi, my name is Tyler Salona, otherwise known as Tyler Catastrophe. I'm from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, currently living in North Texas. I'm an accomplished lifelong musician, a published poet, an exhibited artist and painter, and I'm known internationally as a weaver, beadworker, and jewelry designer. I've sold tens of thousands of pieces of artwork and jewelry, both in person and online. I've shipped to all 50 states, and 26 countries on 5 continents, including Antarctica, so far. I've done dozens of in-person vendor events. If not over 100, I didn't count. I've shown my work in multiple exhibitions, including an exhibition for Clara Luper, the mother of the civil rights movement in Oklahoma, as well as a solo exhibition in Denton, Texas that lasted over a month. And in just the past 5 years, I've designed unique, one-of-a-kind jewelry you can't find anywhere else, that's been worn for everything from weddings to cosplays, from TED Talks to fashion shows. And so far, my work has a 100% success rate when it comes to marriage proposals. All of my work adheres to very strict quality control. Like this pink and green piece, that I designed as a fun challenge to match this Ellie Saab gown from the 2025 Spring Couture collection. And every detail from the structure of the weave itself, to the quality of each individual bead and gemstone I use, is held to a meticulous standard that I will never compromise on. And I have 6 custom pieces currently under contract for a movie that should be recommencing filming in the coming months. Like this one, that is absolutely full of so much amethyst. I've helped multiple young artists and musicians get their foot in the door and make their starts. and the respect and reputation I've worked very hard to earn. From peers, clients, fellow artists, event organizers, means that my confidence in myself and my abilities and my work is pretty much unshakable at this point. And as someone who was born into generational poverty and started this journey with virtually zero support system, I have blown past so many personal limits, pushed so many creative and professional boundaries, that there is genuinely not a single person on the entire earth who could ever make me believe that I don't rightfully deserve to feel pride in who I am and what I've accomplished.
Now yeah, Tyler seems very confident in what they do, and honestly, I'm not going to mock them for what they do. If they were just a necklace maker, I would actually say, hey, that's pretty cool, you go and make your bag. Now, Tyler's actual necklaces and the jewelry that they make has gone viral. A lot of people have been speaking about the things that he makes, and some have been debating that it's overpriced. Honestly, I don't really think it's relevant to the conversation that we're having today, but yeah, I wanted to establish this individual has supposedly, according to him at least, run a very, very successful jewelry selling business. And yeah, over the years, Tyler has documented this jewelry on social media, and in general, Tyler has also spoke about his personal journey in his life. For example, in 2022, Tyler gained a little bit of popularity on TikTok when he spoke about the treatment that he had received in his childhood from his parents, who had supposedly neglected him and prioritized their brother, who had more, well, I guess, conventional interests.
Growing up, my parents helped run a non-profit soccer park, so when my brother started showing real actual talent and drive, you can see where their favorite was. And because goalies are highly sought after, and he was one of the best, my childhood was spent in the back of the car raising myself while he was doing Olympic development, out-of-state tournaments, constant practices, conditioning sessions, games, everything. And don't get me wrong, soccer's great. I was a referee for 6 years. It's fun. I like the sport. Fully admit that he was good. But we both had the exact same amount of talent, passion, and drive in different areas. And I was the one who was always made to sacrifice. Because sports get scholarships and he's going to buy his mom a house one day. And I was a musician who was incredibly good. But everyone knows musicians are destined to fail. So it was constantly, we don't have enough money for this thing, Patrick needs new uniforms. You can't go to this thing, we have to go to Patrick's game. You have to leave early for this thing because Patrick has a tournament in the morning. Do you have any idea how humiliating it is to be in marching band? Okay, you're in marching band. You've just given one of the best performances you guys have given all season, and you have to leave early and tell your director that you have to leave early and have no choice because you made the mistake of inviting your parents because you thought that they would be proud of you, but your little brother has a game in the morning and they want to go home. I didn't even get to practice at home because it annoyed my brother. So when I didn't get to take myself seriously until college, so while this kid had literally everything handed to him on a silver platter, scholarship offers by freshman year, scouted by Premier League teams, the Olympics, he got himself kicked off the soccer team, dropped out of high school, got a girl pregnant, and then just this weekend, got married with a gun on his hip that matched his suspenders. And considering how racist, homophobic, and just overall a bitch he is, I do not feel bad at all for how much pride I take in the fact that I made it and he didn't. The kid was a bully who told me to kill myself almost every day of my life. And now I've got famous people who say my name on a regular basis, and he's got a job at the same company my dad's worked for, like, basically our entire lives. So yeah, I think parents need to be way more careful which kid they choose to bet against.
So yeah, it is very clear from a young age, Tyler didn't necessarily have a role model for a parent. He didn't really have the parents there for him, and you're going to go on to find out that these parents were very neglectful. And I don't again say this to create a sob story or a piece of sympathy, but it is generally to get to an understanding of where we are at. Because yes, Tyler has developed a parasocial relationship with Wilbur Soot over the last few years, and a lot of that, from what I've read at least, can be attributed to some of the things that he's spoken about from his childhood. And I'm not trying to diagnose anything here, but there have been a lot of psychologists that have written about attachment theory, where it suggests that individuals who didn't form a strong bond with a primary caregiver in early childhood will try to find an attachment substitute as adults, and engaging in parasocial relationships allows them to do do so. And look, it is a bit of a joke in a lot of social media when somebody sees someone in a fan base who has dedicated their entire life to something to be called fatherless or it's fatherless behavior. Now, personally, I don't necessarily think this can be for literally every single situation. I'm not gonna lie to you, my friends. When I was a kid, actually, I joke about it, but my parents... maybe it applies to me in some cases, but I've ran things in the past where, you know, like I wrote fan fiction for the Avatar: The Last Airbender series and stuff like that. I've done it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's fatherless behavior, but to some, it can lead to that. And with Tyler, it is very clear that over the years of his childhood, he did not have a good attachment to his parents, particularly his father, who, according to him, was a narcissistic abuser who made his family go homeless and is factually the worst person he ever knew.
Biological father is the worst person I've ever known, which is actually why when people ask, I usually just say he's dead. Because he is dead. To me. I honestly believe he is the sole reason my entire life has felt as if I was moving through quicksand. But now I'm ready to run. And now that my youngest sibling is over the age of 18 and can no longer be used as leverage and can also leave if she wants, I really want to see what happens when a scapegoat sings like a canary. But because I want this to be an ongoing series, and because I know he likes to sue, a little disclaimer. Everything I have to say on this topic is based on my own personal experiences and observations, and is, to the best of my knowledge and intention, true. Also, I won't be naming any names, so... best of luck! Also, on an unrelated note, I have all of these things and the clicky thing that you click on. Might as well give them a look if you want. My parents got divorced when I was a senior in high school, and I wish they'd done it sooner. My father had been cheating on my mother for who knows how long, and doing a whole bunch of other stuff that really made it seem like he just wanted her to kick him out. But the straw that really broke the camel's back was on Thanksgiving of all days, when my mother realized he had been shopping for holsters on their joint Amazon account. And because there were a lot of mental health issues in that house, my mother's one hard deal breaker was no firearms. But he had had one for a while, and he made me and my siblings who knew about it keep it a secret from her. So when she gave him an ultimatum, either it goes or you go, he ran like a bat out of hell. He literally dragged my mother down the driveway with his truck because she didn't want him to leave. And because we were all worried that he was going to himself, I was the one who had to call his parents. Me, a senior in high school, who had just had to place himself between his father, who had a firearm, and his siblings who hated him. But the real kicker is that one of the first things he did was drain the family bank accounts. And as far as I know, every single one he had access to. And for a little background here, my mother was a nurse for most of my childhood, but then when I was in middle school, I think, she went back to college and became a school teacher. And she taught in Oklahoma, so clearly she would not have enough money to care for all three of us. So effectively, he had forced her hand and made her sign over the rights to her children. I adamantly refused to go with him, and the second I put my foot down, it really started to feel like he wanted to make me regret it. Which is probably where we'll start part 2.
So yeah, obviously, despite what we're going to get into later on, I feel bad that he had to endure this and go through these horrible experiences. And again, I say these things to basically build the structure and story of what we're going to get into, and to kind of explain how somebody would get to the depths of defending somebody so much for some of the reasons that they give in the future. And by the way, I'm not trying to diagnose him with anything here. I'm more just speaking about how there are a lot of textbooks and papers out there that point to this type of behavior and give certain reasons. So yeah, not doing a Shane Dawson, Jake Paul series here. But in fairness to Tyler, it was very clear that this wasn't going to stop him pursuing his dreams, and eventually Tyler actually did go to college to study music production and business. Well, he claims that he did, but this is where I kind of get a little bit confused, and maybe my American compadres can help me out here. Because yeah, in October 2019, Tyler was hit by an SUV causing health complications with his lungs that caused him to have to drop out of college and leave a band, as he was not able to sing anymore due to his health complications. But despite leaving college, he also at the same time claims that he actually did major.
So I'm definitely a big Lovejoy fan. Like, any band that uses trumpets and lyricism well together immediately has my heart. There's no other way. I'm just stuck for life. And because they got so big before they had played shows, I knew exactly what was going to happen. Because with a little bit of my background, between being a musician my whole life, going to anything from $5 basement shows to $300 stadium shows to fucking Warped Tour, I also majored in music production and business with a heavy focus on event management and coordination. I've had my place on various guest lists, and I've been known to get bands gigs.
So yeah, he did major, but he also dropped out from college. Now, from my own research, apparently majoring and actually fully graduating with a degree is a different thing. I'm not actually 100% sure, to be honest with you. It's not exactly that important of a detail, but if you want to let me know down below, you can let me know down below. But also in another interview in 2026, Tyler did confirm that he did drop out, so I am a little bit confused. I'm not going to say he was lying, but maybe this is just me misunderstanding. But the reason that I speak about this is to kind of show to you that from a younger age, it was very clear that Tyler had interest in music, singing, and the arts. Say and the arts, like music and singing just aren't arts. I mean, for certain artists, it definitely is an art. That contradicts itself in them being an artist, but ignore me. But this is where we need to move into 2022, when Tyler started a GoFundMe to help, quote-unquote, a disabled trans guy escape Texas. He stated that his name was Tyler, and he's a disabled transgender artist stuck in Texas, and he's been given an amazing opportunity in England to further his art career. Now, honestly, power to you, but I genuinely don't understand why somebody would be trying to escape Texas. I mean, I know it's a right-wing place, but to go to the UK, especially given, you know, being trans and disabled, I mean, the UK is quite literally known as Turf Island. The treatment of trans people in the UK is absolutely diabolical, and they are absolutely just completely pushed to the side in the worst possible ways. And the same can be said for disabled people, especially with the way right-wing right-wing parties are rising in this country. So I thought I'd just say there, like, I don't really get I don't get why he would do this. Now, Tyler will go on to claim the specific place that he wanted to move to was a very, you know, left-wing liberal, you know, accepting place, which it definitely is, but there are also very accepting left-wing places in the US as well, and making such a massive, drastic move is something that, well, you have to have real reason for. And, you know, Tyler claims that this was all down to the fact that, as he said previously, he's been given an amazing opportunity.
Hey, could y'all maybe do me a favor real quick and blow this up because it's really important to me? Yeah? Okay, thanks. Love you, bye.
So yeah, Tyler really, really wanted to get to the UK, but unfortunately, it did not happen. Despite the supposed opportunity that they had, it all fell apart, which they explain in this TikTok here.
So y'all know how I was supposed to move to England last year? And how I'm clearly not in England this year? And I know I never really talked about why I did not move to England, because I was angry and trying to preserve other people's feelings. But now it's just really hitting me how f***ed up that situation was. You see, I was supposed to be working in an art studio with an artist that I have been looking up to for a very long time. And I never actually named him, or the studio that I was supposed to be working for, because I don't even know why. Maybe a part of me knew it wasn't going to work out. That part of me should have talked louder. But for nearly a year, I put my life on hold because I thought that this opportunity was going to pan out. Just for him to randomly decide, actually no. And he didn't even have the respect for me to tell me. He just ghosted me. And I had to go through every other person in the studio to try and get an answer until finally his assistant let me know that it just wasn't going to happen. And obviously the plan is still to move to England somehow, at some point. That's why the GoFundMe is still up and I haven't done anything with it. But in planning to move to England, I sold all of my music equipment. Except for my instruments. My recording setup, I sold my amps, I sold my cords, I sold fucking everything because I didn't want to lug it across an ocean. And a very large part of me is so angry about it. Because it sucks.
So yeah, obviously I can imagine that this was a very disappointing moment in this person's life. They really had a plan seemingly, they wanted to move to the UK, and they wanted to experience British culture. Not really sure why, to be honest with you, but alas, it was something that they wanted to do. But a lot of people started to ask questions. Is this the real, authentic, 100% reason that this individual wanted to move to the UK? Because this is where the Wilbur Soot conversation starts to come into things. 40 minutes into my video, I know. Because yes, a TikTok in 2026 started to get recirculated and do the rounds, where Tyler Catastrophe claimed that he wanted to move to Brighton.
Seen the guy moving halfway around the world just to be closer to a YouTuber? If y'all think I would make a massive, life-altering decision that takes years of work to achieve, just because I was willing to admit on the internet that I think a musician I don't know has a pretty laugh, then y'all really have the wrong idea. And I suppose you have a better explanation? I was supposed to move to Bournemouth a couple years ago. I had a job lined up, I did a ton of research, made a ton of preparations, admittedly got a little too excited because it ended up falling through at the last minute. But when I finally dusted myself off and got myself back on track, and decided I could probably just move out of the US on my own, England was the easiest choice because I had already done so much of the work. But why Brighton specifically? But when I visited England and met the people I had hoped to be working with, I completely fell in love with the South Coast. I've always wanted to live near the ocean and it's gorgeous. And Brighton is a really popular city right now. I've got a bunch of friends and support in the area, and like with most college towns, it's got a thriving art and music scene. And people keep telling me it's the gay capital of the UK, which I think is hilarious.
Now, Brighton's a nice place. It's alright. It's got the beach. Not a very good beach, may I say, but it's got a beach. And the South Coast, it's alright. It's alright, you know, it's not even special. It's just nice. It's alright, you know. Go for a day out, get an ice cream, some fish and chips, you know, British culture. You know what I'm saying? But he wanted to move from Texas to Brighton. And, you know, Brighton is a big gay place, of course. But moving across continents is a bit of a move, you know, is a bit of a drastic action. And well, one individual that we've mentioned today, Wilbur Soot, also coincidentally lived in Brighton. And I have kind of jumped around in the timeline here for when things have gone viral and when things haven't gone viral, but Tyler's obsession with Wilbur started to do the rounds, and it then led to people finding these TikToks about him wanting to move to Brighton, and it of course made a lot of people out there think that he only wanted to move to the UK to get closer to a certain Wilbur Soot. And yeah, with that, it leads us into the conversations finally surrounding him and his obsession with Wilbur, because yes, a clip from 2024 started to go viral when Tyler made the claim that Shelby was basically not telling the truth and that Wilbur was innocent of everything that he had been accused of. Yes, this is finally the beginning of the obsession with Wilbur. Now, stan culture, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, is definitely something that can be good. It can lead to very positive things. I'm not going to be somebody that directly hates on K-pop stans or, you know, Dan and Phil stans or, they're honestly the only stans that I care about. But I'm not going to hate on them because I think some of them are a lot of them, most of them, in fact, are just people trying to enjoy themselves and celebrate the creators that they love and the fan base that they're in. But this special little cupcake, I can't lie to you, he's the bad example of what stan culture can possibly be. Not a representation of it overall, but definitely, considering what he says about Shelby and Wilbur, well, it's not great.
I do not think that Wilbur Soot is an abuser, and I know I've said that fairly indirectly in the past, especially recently, but I do feel like now it needs to be said point blank. Because as someone who has been a victim of abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, I know way too well what those things look like.
First things first here, I need to immediately say, if you're a victim of anything, that does not give you the right to look at another victim's story and say, oh, this happened to me, therefore I am the oracle of abuse. That is something that is honestly very frustrating to see, and it's something that, as somebody that's covered a lot of these types of stories over the years, I consistently see where a victim stands up for somebody who has been accused of a lot of heinous things, and they seem to believe that just because they went through some form of abusive situation, that means that they can now dictate what is right and what is wrong. That is immediately, not just a red flag, but just flat out wrong and something that you cannot do. Your personal experiences are personal experiences. You were not in the shoes of Shelby, you were in your own shoes experiencing, yes, what you experienced in the past, and I'm sorry you went through that, but it does not give you the right to attack attack other victims out there. And of course, this is only the beginning, and it's just going to continuously, progressively get worse from this point. But of course, 10 seconds in, it's an absolute disaster.
And while I know that most of my audience knows how I approach things like this by now, I also know that if I post this video, there will probably be a lot of people who don't know me who see it. So I'm going to try to be as kind, direct, and clear-cut as I can.
It's not kind to be condescending and belittling towards other victims because you're also a victim in another situation. It's not kind to victim blame, and you're doing that. So don't tell me that you're being kind. You're doing the exact opposite of that. You are victim blaming. That's not kind. That's disgusting.
So I'm going to stick to 3 main points from Shovel's VODs. Please go and watch them yourself. You are under no obligation to think the way that I do. And then I'm going to touch on Wilbur's response. And then I think the general response needs to be addressed as well. Because Shovel's main points were that Wilbur was a slob, had a messy house, that she paid for a lot of her way to see him, and that he bit her. For point 1, let's be honest, most men aren't taught how to take care of themselves in their living spaces. And for men in their early 20s, that's a lot worse than it should be.
Firstly, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Of course, a lot of people out there have not taught their children how they should, actually live and be and act. But I feel like a lot of people out there know the difference between being a little bit messy and living in complete disgusting filth. Now, he's obviously going to go and try to use the point of, oh, well, him living in a disgusting house isn't technically abuse. But that's not even the point here. Shelby only mentioned these things in her stream because she was telling her entire story and trying to reflect the fact that she tried her best in every opportunity to help Will, and all he did was cause her pain and stress, like he literally admitted to in his own response and apology. So I am a little bit confused why you come on here and deny these things when Wilbur himself has admitted to causing pain. It is a little bit confusing why he says that, but you say, oh no, I'm a victim. I know what victimhood is.
Every man I dated in their late teens, early 20s was gross. That's just kind of par for the course. It sucks, but it is to be expected. And it is not, by default, malicious. 2, paying your own way, especially for a distance like that, is kind of expected. And when you take into account that they were both very successful in their respective careers at that point, paying your own expenses isn't by default malicious.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know Wilbur, but I definitely had association via other mutual friends with Wilbur in the past. These Minecraft YouTubers make money. They made a lot of cheddar. They made a lot of money, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't think Shelby made the levels of money these individuals were making, and I honestly think that Wilbur should have paid for the majority of the things, because I feel like if you have a partner and they're a millionaire, I feel like the millionaire should probably pay for the most things. I think that's pretty normal. And again, when Shelby speaks about these types of things, she's building the story and making people understand the ins and outs of their relationship. Of course, it starts to get into more severe and serious things, but she tells these things to let us know what actually took place in this relationship, where both of them were at, and to give an accurate reflection on the story. Of course, the biting element is the most serious part of the story, but just getting on live stream and being like, oh yeah, he bit me, and nothing else, that would be a bit weird. That would be a bit strange, and telling the entire story with context is very important. But of course, this person who is a victim themselves, they know the best way to tell the stories about abuse, and they know what's right and what isn't. Just shut up, honestly. You're just chatting nonsense. And I also feel like Tyler has very much represented that they do not understand this situation completely, because he complains that Shelby mentions the filth, and he complains that Shelby speaks about the amount of money that she had to spend in her relationship with Wilbur, but these two things coincide with each other. There's a reason that she mentioned this when giving a broader picture on what actually took place in their relationship. If she was going to come to a place where it's disgusting, filthy, there's ants everywhere, I do think that Wilbur definitely should have had to pay for certain things, especially considering how much Shelby apparently complained about these things and actually had to clean up the place herself to get rid of things like ant infestations. I feel like the reason she has said these things is to show that Wilbur did not care about her whatsoever. Despite using her hard-earned money to go across to his country to stay with him and visit him, he allowed her to stay in a filthy place where he did not do anything to clear it up, and instead she had to spend her money in clearing that up. And yes, that is neglectful, but oh no, according to Tyler, these things really aren't relevant.
For the third point, Shovel states very clearly in her follow-up VOD that she consented to the biting. She then went on to clarify that what she had an issue with was the fact that it hurt. And while I don't think anyone should be hurt in their relationships, at the end of the day, that is a communication issue. And whether it's just a poor communication or lack thereof, both parties are responsible for that.
Again, I don't understand why he's saying these things when Wilbur has actually apologized for doing this. But also, the main point most people have had with this situation is the weaponization of the safe word. With the stories that Shelby gave involving the biting, how it very much did seem, according to the words that she had said, that Wilbur tested this safe word to the maximum extent in seemingly every single scenario. And also, I feel like Tyler is forgetting the fact that in Shelby's livestream, she stated that the only reason a safe word was invented was because he kept on pushing the biting and hurting her and causing bruises. And even after that, it very much seems, at least from my perspective, that the safe word was being weaponized.
But he did mention something early that I should have taken as a red flag. And he wanted to make sure that I was okay with him biting me because he didn't want me to come back later and say that he abused me, which I thought was really weird considering he had never hurt me before. And so why would I call it abuse? And why was he thinking about that? And I thought he was being sweet, checking on me to make sure that I was still comfortable. But of course I was, because he hadn't hurt me. And why would I think he ever would? And then he did for the first time by accident. And I don't specifically remember the actual first time that he bit me too hard by accident because I didn't think that it would be significant. I thought that it would only happen once. And he started biting me more and more over a period of time, sort of throughout the whole relationship. And accidents of him biting too hard and really hurting me happened more and more frequently. But he always seemed genuinely sorry. And he decided that he didn't want to keep accidentally hurting me. So we were going to use a safe word. So he could learn where my limit was. I didn't like it, and I tried telling him over and over again because he wasn't actually trying at all to not hurt me. But he said he would try at first. And then he started saying things like, it was my pain tolerance that was too low, or I'm exaggerating how much it actually hurts. He's not even biting that hard. I'm being dramatic. But his biting escalated to a point where I was covered in bruises all over my arms, and they hurt, and he would poke at them for fun. And he even felt so comfortable showing off my bruises that he had caused to our friends because he would bite me so hard by accident. By accident, he would even joke that it looked like he abused me. And eventually he did acknowledge how bad it looked that I was covered in bruises all the time. So he stopped biting my arms as often, and he started biting my legs instead. And it was in the last couple of months of the relationship that every time he bit me, it was until I needed to use this safe word. It had become his benchmark for when to stop.
Now, I understand that we've already seen this clip, but I do feel like it is something that Tyler himself seems to have not seen, or at least is just willingly ignoring. Because yeah, in both of those two clips that we just went through, Shelby speaks about how the safe word was formed, and that came from Wilbur accidentally hurting her. And in my opinion, and I do need to say, yeah, that this whole video is my opinion for legal reasons, and there has been no convictions made, but I just need to say that. But yes, it does seem that that safe word was weaponized and used to push the barriers as far as possible, but Tyler willingly ignores all of this and all of the context in the entire situation. But the most important thing here is the fact that Wilbur himself apologized for causing pain and claimed that he wanted to validate Shelby's feelings. So what are we doing here? Why are we even defending the actions when Wilbur himself has put out an apology? Now, obviously, that apology was deliberately vague in my humble opinion, because whilst he claims that yes, he does think that what took place between him and Shelby was consensual, he also states, while I may perceive our interactions differently, I recognize that this person has processed and expressed feelings of hurt, and I want to extend my sincerest apologies for any pain that I caused. Why would he say that if these things weren't true? I think he was trying to play both sides here to limit as much outrage as possible, but all it does come off as, in my opinion, is very PR driven and still an apology to Shelby.
And whether it's just a poor communication or lack thereof, both parties are responsible for that. Because a lack of communication or poor communication on either side is not, by default, malicious. And at the end of the day, when no assault took place, and the end result is just a bad relationship, that is something you handle in private, like adults. And to air personal, adult dirty laundry to a very large, very young audience in a way that is incredibly vague and left open to interpretation.
I don't think any of the stuff that Shelby said was vague or left open for interpretation. In fact, this is one of the most documented stories on the internet in the last few years. The Shelby and Wilbur story went viral because of the amount of information that there was. In fact, a big reason that you've complained about this story and how Shelby handled it was that she actually gave too many details in speaking about the, filthy environment that Wilbur chose to live in and the paying of certain things. You've just complained about that, but now it's a problem that it's vague. That doesn't make any sense. You've said that there's too much detail, but also not enough detail. It's very confusing what the point you're trying to make here.
And left open to interpretation is, at the end of the day, very dishonest and very irresponsible. And that is made evident by the resulting response, where Wilbur Soot met Shovel where she was at, gave a very direct and validating response that responded to what was said, addressed what was said, validated what was said, and gave evidence that he was making moves to be better.
Firstly, he didn't give any evidence to support the fact that he had been changing or doing things to become a better person. Now, obviously, that is a very difficult thing to prove, but I think this immediately shows this person's bias in that they have said that Wilbur's own just words are his form of evidence. But when Shelby says what she says, that's not evidence, that's just gossip that should just be said behind closed doors. And it very much indicates to us that this person is going to do anything to defend Wilbur. Now, Tyler may counter what I just said here with saying, well, Shelby just gave her words in the story, and you're calling me biased to believe in Wilbur's words. The difference is, well, Wilbur has apologized for these things. And also, there was tons of evidence out there linking what Shelby said to be a fact. There were former friends that spoke about Wilbur's biting habits, and there was a lot of evidence based on previous clips and previous live streams speaking about Wilbur's filthy lifestyle and just in general Wilbur's habits. I don't necessarily think it's bias to link all of these things together and side with Shelby, but just taking one singular text apology and meaning that proves everything is genuinely biased and pretty insane.
And when that mature adult response was received by a very angry young audience, it was received as an admission of guilt and seen as validation for the wildly exaggerated rumors that came from leaving that sort of thing open to interpretation. And now, every mention of his name, his band, his career, anyone that has anything to do with him, is met with such vitriolic hatred
that there's no room for anyone to improve anything at all.
Now, this is something that I find very interesting. He's basically acting like Lovejoy but cancelled here, but I feel like most people just made up their own opinions to themselves and decided, hey, I don't want to support this band anymore, I don't want to support this artist anymore, and I'm going to go do something better with my life. You, however, are just choosing to remain, which, that's your choice, but rather than just listening to the music and enjoying the music, you're now building a TikTok career of hating on this individual and basically calling them a liar and completely victim blaming them. And again, what confuses me is in this apology, you've said that Wilbur validated some of the things that Shelby said. So it's like, what are you even trying to argue here? You yourself have basically admitted that Wilbur admitted to things. But also, it wasn't just a young audience turning on Wilbur. All of his ex-friends had turned on him, who all of them were grown adults. And using the idea of these people being children or young as a way to dismiss them is, again, something a lot of people who go through these serious types of situations do, where they're like, oh, these are just kids. These are just people that don't understand the world. They're just like, well, no, they clearly understand the world more than you do. Because they clearly acknowledge that somebody has admitted to something here, they've said that pain was caused, and they've seen that, and they don't want to support that anymore. How hard is that to understand, and why are you personally so affected by the fact that these individuals chose to get up and leave? Lovejoy can still make music, they still tour, they still make albums, so what is your issue? Well, it does just seem to come down to the fact that this person is quite obsessed with Wilbur, as we're going to continue to discover throughout this video.
And when we live in a world where we were begging everyone and everything at all times to be better than it is, that kind of response does nothing but make everyone worse. And I stand with victims. I am one, several times over. But these sort of things have to be handled in a responsible way, because where we stand right now, with the internet being the way it is, what we've ended up creating under the guise of supporting victims is a culture that has trained children, teenagers, young adults, anyone who will listen, to be internet attack dogs for people that we don't know. And you're allowed to be upset, you're allowed to be angry, you are totally justified in those feelings. But if you allow yourself to be blindly swept up in those feelings and the roar of the crowd around you, eventually you are going to find yourself in a situation where you are being used as a weapon by angry people who just want to see other people burn.
This individual is saying that they stand by victims and they want people to be uplifted and to speak up about their stories, whilst also saying that Shelby used all of her fans and children in her audience as weapons. Do you not understand how derogatory that statement is? Do you not understand how cruel and victim blamey that statement is? You can't get on here and say that you stand by victims, but because your favorite artist is now being accused of something, immediately, oh, actually, no, I don't think we should talk about these things anymore. I don't think the internet should discuss these things anymore. It seems very coincidental that you've always been about abuse until it affects your favorite content creator. And look, you can demean these child audiences all you want, but they've seemingly handled this situation a lot better than you have.
And I'm not saying you should support Will. I'm not saying you should continue listening to Lovejoy just because there's no evidence on either side.
Then what are you saying? If you truly believe that there's no evidence and nothing actually took place here, then why are you saying, well, I don't think you should continue supporting? Well, why? If you think he's innocent, surely double down on this. What he's trying to do here is weirdly play two sides, but it's like you're calling someone a liar and saying they weaponized children against somebody to basically destroy an individual. That is sick and cruel. You can't play a middle ground while saying these things.
I am saying that it is not your responsibility to be judge, jury, and executioner for people you don't know in situations that you don't understand. Because none of us have all of the information. In fact, in this instance, there was very little information to go on.
You literally have complained in this video about the amount of information that Shelby gave in regards to their entire relationship. What is your point here? Are you mad about all of the information given, or do you want there to be less information or more? I don't really get. And it does just seem that this person is very confused, and I think that does just come down to the fact that this person is desperate to keep on being a fan of Wilbur and to keep on obsessing over Wilbur without facing any form of judgment.
And at the end of the day, ruining someone's life, someone's career, the careers and lives of everyone around them, for the crime of what is ultimately being a bad boyfriend, is not something that is your job to do. These are adults in their 20s and 30s who are still in the f***ing up and learning from it stages of life. And above all else, they are people. And they are going to f*** up 1,000 times over. But the important part is that they learn from it. And if you do not allow them to do so, you only encourage them to be worse. Because I have seen the absolute worst that life has to offer time and time and time again. And I can tell you from experience that the only way things get better is if you let people change. So while I encourage you to take a step back, feel your own feelings, and make your own decisions, I'm also going to encourage you to approach things like this with compassion. Because when it comes to situations where there's no assault, there's no crime being committed, after all said and done, you have to let people be people. And if you're watching this and you're a young adult, you're a teenager, you're a child, then I applaud your willingness to be the change you want to see, but it is not your responsibility to hold adults accountable, especially when those adults are not people you know personally. And I'm proud of you for doing the best you can with what you know, but this isn't your fight. And I know that you personally probably have way too much to deal with already.
Why do I feel like this is like a school counselor speaking to me in the most condescending manner possible? You know how adults will just like ignore anything a child will say? Even if the child is saying logical things, they'll be like, no, I'm the adult. I'm right here. It's like, no, shut the f up. I'm also an adult, and I can actually see that you're completely chatting complete utter nonsense. Children can give judgment if they want to give judgment. Children can see something and they can acknowledge that that thing is bad, and it is very clear that that has happened. But also, the argument being made here is incredibly manipulative. This wasn't just a child thing. I have seen grown adults, a lot of adults, turn on Wilbur. And in fact, that audience from 2020 have now become adults and realize, or not just realize, but at the time they also did realize, but they just, collectively agree that, yeah, they don't want to support this individual anymore. And the only reason that he's calling the people who are mad children is because it is a very easy tactic to get people to ignore the actual valid criticism. And of course, this TikTok went down absolutely terribly, and at the time of when it came out, it didn't really do the rounds, but in 2025, it randomly got in the TikTok algorithm, and it caused a lot of people to see it, and a lot of people to comment criticism. For example, this individual here states, I didn't experience it this way, so no one can. Genius thought process, mates. And I think that's a perfect summary of what's going on here with Tyler Catastrophe. Just because you personally had a different experience with something in your own personal situation, that doesn't mean you can cast judgment on somebody who had their own personal situation. I find it very ironic that Tyler loves to do this thing where he claims that we shouldn't judge people and we should allow people to grow and change and become better people. Firstly, why does a person need to grow and change if you believe that they haven't done anything wrong? But secondly, you have just made a 6-minute long TikTok casting judgment on an entire community of individuals and also a victim. If there's anyone who's judgmental in this situation, it's you, and this fake little kind nice thing that he does is so disgustingly condescending that it genuinely just irritates me. The thing is it didn't end there with the defense of Wilbur Soot. In fact, this was just the beginning, because after that, Tyler then doubled down in another video, claiming that people need to give other individuals the opportunity to change.
Better on an individual level, because at that point it's not about holding people accountable, it's about you getting to be a dick. The video this comment is on is about how I do not think that Wilbur Soot is an abuser, and it took a lot for me to post it. I had to think a lot about how to say what I wanted to say, and I was really worried that it would be taken the wrong way, but so far the comments have been super understanding, and I am so grateful for that. But since posting that video, I've seen so many reasons that I needed to post it in the first place. Because how long are we as people going to sit in this place where we treat every mistake as if it makes us irredeemable? And sure, people should face consequences for their actions, but if those consequences are not put in place as a lesson to be better and learn from those actions in the future, then those aren't consequences, those are punishment. And no one learns from punishment.
I'm very confused because he's just made a 6-minute TikTok about how he thinks that Wilbur isn't an abuser. And now he's saying, well, people should face consequences, but they should also be allowed to grow and change. I don't actually think anyone's saying that Wilbur can't grow and change and hopefully become a better individual. But that doesn't mean people need to miraculously come back to his community and suddenly become a Lovejoy fan again and buy all the merchandise and, oh, let's get him back on the Dream SMP. It's like, no, that's not how it works with forgiveness and change. I think a lot of people out there seem to think that forgiveness is like this thing where immediately everything goes back to being the way it was before, or when you start to make strides to change your life in the better way, everyone around you needs to just forget what you did. That's not how forgiveness and changing works. Unfortunately, even if you've become a better person, changed, people are still going to remember what you did, and that is just a consequence of your own actions. That is just another part of the learning and growing and changing phase. Now, of course, this person isn't Wilbur saying these things, but I think a lot of people out there seem to forget that the biggest part of the growing and changing process is accepting that some people, or a lot of people, may never see you in the same way that they saw you previously. Unfortunately, though, a lot of people can't handle that and get very angry. And sometimes you get third parties like this who get angry for the sake of other individuals like Wilbur.
Day in and day out, you hear, oh, people don't change, people never change, but they do. Every day, everything changes. Change is the closest thing we have to a universal constant. But the most important part of that puzzle is that you have to let people change. You have to acknowledge the ability to change. You have to acknowledge the change in itself. Are they really incapable of changing, or are you just not letting them? Have they really never changed, or are you just not acknowledging that they already have? Because if you're going to call someone out for their behavior, you have to be willing to let them change the behavior. Because if you don't, you may as well just admit to yourself and everyone around you that you're not interested in people being better. You just want to watch more people burn. And I know someone's going to call me a stupid optimist again, but nihilism is a cancer, and all it ever does is ensure that nothing ever gets better. And if you want to see a better world than the one that we have right now, you have to acknowledge and allow people to be better on an individual level. Because at that point, it's not about holding people accountable. It's about you getting to be a...
I mean, Wilbur Soot is out there. He makes music still. He still is relatively popular, and he has a successful music career, even if it is significantly smaller than it once was. So, yeah, I don't really get your point. Wilbur has been allowed to grow and change, and Wilbur also still does have somewhat, as I mentioned earlier, of a smaller audience, which you clearly are the chief and leader of. But yeah, of course, this response also went down absolutely terribly with the community. But at the same time, there were some people being understanding. Because some people gave the counter of, people do change from punishment. Operant conditioning demonstrates that positive and negative punishments can work better than positive and negative reinforcements. And yeah, that is something that definitely can be debated, but what can't be debated is this person's obsession with Wilbur Soot. Because these TikToks that I've shown you are very much the beginning of a trend of TikToks that Tyler got into, of where he seemingly comes after people like Shelby, defends Wilbur, and it very much did start to go viral more and more, because naturally a lot of people were enraged that this guy was consistently defending somebody who for the large majority is considered an abuser. But at this point, in fairness to Tyler, he has built a very successful career on the side of making these Wilbur defenses, and of course that isn't just in relation to speaking about Wilbur Soot. He also became known for making jewelry, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, and it was very clear that he was establishing a bit of a dedicated audience for himself, which, you know, understandably for a lot of people out there, that was pretty crazy, but it does just show, and honestly counters his point a little, that there is always going to be an audience for someone no matter what you do, such as making TikToks like this.
I'm going to say something very important, and then I'm going to follow it with however. And I know the second I say that word, a lot of people are going to tune me out, but I'm asking you so nicely to keep listening.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Believe victims, believe survivors.
Okay, great. I mean, yeah, I completely agree with...
However.
I know I said I would listen to him, but yeah. It's going to be another TikTok from this guy, basically just saying that you shouldn't listen to victims or something. He's very confused about his beliefs. It very much does seem to be, believe victims until it's somebody that I like on the internet.
As a victim myself, as a survivor myself, what we should be saying when we say those words is believe victims, believe survivors first. Because the unfortunate truth is that just because you would never lie about something so important does not mean that no one would. Because blindly believing people like me
can still be a bad thing.
Now, what he's saying here is generally quite confusing to me because there have been multiple content creators out there that have had false accusations levied against them, and those content creators have come out defending themselves with evidence and actually proving that the things said about them were complete lies, and the entire internet has unilaterally been on their side. I don't know if that was the right word to use there, but has been completely on their side, supporting them and basically exposing the person that tried to expose them. This is something that has happened multiple times on social media, and it very much does reflect the fact that, well, the entire internet isn't just necessarily going to believe anyone needlessly and blindly. No, people are going to listen to receipts. They are going to listen to evidence, and this is a 2-year-old story that certain things have been admitted to, and yet you still seem to act like this is something that is in debate when it really, in regards to the public, is absolutely not a debate.
I know I would never lie about that sort of thing, but I still know people who have admitted to making false allegations, who have bragged about making false allegations. I still have known people who said that they would if they knew that it would benefit them. And every single time I have been assaulted, every single time I have been abused, every single time that I have been in a situation where I needed someone to believe me, a vast majority of the people in my life chose not to. I know how it feels to not be believed.
Okay, so you know what it's like to not be believed, but you're still going to get onto your social media and not believe somebody to the point of where you're going to victim blame them and say that they are weaponizing children to ruin somebody's life. It's a little bit confusing. It is a little confusing, and it says to me that this person doesn't exactly care about victims.
So if someone tells me that they have been through a similar situation to my own, I will always believe them first. But if it comes to a point where I cannot feel comfortable believing them, that is saying a lot. And I definitely do not make that decision lightly, ever. It does not matter how much I like the accused, it does not matter how attractive they are, it does not matter how successful or talented they are, I will always believe the alleged victim first. I loved All Time Low as a kid. I was in Onision forums for years.
Is it a shock that this guy was an Onision kid? Gee, I mean, obviously, a lot of people, I mean, to be honest, Onision's one of those people who I do get confused how people were fans. Like, I know there are some people in my audience that were, and I'm not trying to judge you, but I remember in like 2010, the guy was controversial. I remember Repsion was making videos about him years and years before like 2018. So I kind of get confused about how anyone can be a fan of that guy, but it really isn't a shock to me that Tyler Catastrophe was an Onision fan. If anything, it basically kind of explains everything in this story. But yeah, let's continue.
And when I heard about things they were doing behind the scenes, it did not matter how much I liked them. I was done. I was 100% on Amber Heard's side until I was given too many reasons not to be. But that is still not a decision that I made lightly. And I know that for every person who takes the time to understand what I'm saying, there's another one that won't. But I know that I personally have to use discernment in order to feel comfortable with the decisions I make. And even if I cannot personally feel comfortable trusting someone at their word, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. My decisions are made up of my experiences, just as yours are made up of yours. And at the end of the day, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of victims and survivors that I believe wholeheartedly. And there are genuinely only 3 that I know of that I cannot feel comfortable believing. And if not feeling comfortable believing those 3 and everything they say makes people think that I am a horrible person, there's nothing I can do about that. But if there is one thing I can say, that I will never compromise my own moral compass just to make someone else feel better. Because my moral compass was forged in a fire that I hope no one else has to go through. So please, if you hear nothing else from this video, believe victims, believe survivors first. But please keep in mind that there are people who lie about that sort of thing, and it does irreparable harm to those of us that don't. And personally, I don't want to forgive the people who do. Okay, love you, bye.
So yeah, he makes the claim here that his moral compass was forged in a fire, and honestly, most of the community didn't really understand what he was saying here, mainly due to the fact that, well, this guy's moral compass is clearly all over the place, and it very much seems that in his defense of Wilbur, he is confused about pretty much everything, and most of his points of defense comes from the fact that this guy is absolutely obsessed with Wilbur, and of course this did not go down well with the community, and only made this person's virality just continue, and he was getting more and more known in the community as the guy who was obsessed with Wilbur Soot. And of course, TikToks like this in 2026 started to go more and more viral. It didn't really matter what time Tyler had posted this. It seems that over the last few months, at the time of recording this video, basically every single controversial TikTok Tyler has made has resurfaced and has faced a barrage of criticism. And again, it does beg the question of why is he doing this? Is it because he's in a parasocial relationship with Wilbur? Is it because, you know, he really just likes Wilbur as a person? Or there is another question here. Is he trying to join Lovejoy, the band that Wilbur runs? Now, that might sound a little bit crazy, but as we established in the facts earlier, this person very much loves Lovejoy, and a little TikTok started to go viral in 2026 of where seemingly this person did an audition to be the second vocalist in Lovejoy. And yeah, it's going to be an experience that me and you are going to go through together. Let's hear this person's beautiful singing voice.
I have absolutely no idea if one of my favorite bands might want a second vocalist, but I do know I am crazy enough to ask. So hi, Lovejoy. Do you want a second vocalist? My name is Tyler Salona. I'm 26 years old. I live in Texas, but I'm trying to move to England anyway. I'm a massive extrovert. I've been performing since I was 10, and in 2019, I was actually a semi-professional vocalist, but then had to spend almost 5 years getting my voice back after losing it completely because someone hit me with their car. Through the sheer force of audacious determination, I now have my voice back and my vocal stamina. Which basically means that now that I can go back to music, not doing so makes everything else feel unfulfilling and sad. I figured I might as well shoot my shot. And I also play the trumpet, which is probably helpful. Anyway, here's Portrait of a Blank Slate.
Okay, I'm really excited to hear this, Tyler. You've gone through trauma, you know, you've recovered your lungs, you can sing again, the truck didn't cause any permanent damage. Let's give this person a opportunity.
The whole thing. I hope you like it. I mean, you probably like it already, let's be honest. It is your song, but I also hope you like the parts that I'm gonna do. The singing part. You know.
Alright, yeah, get to the point.
This is a long intro for TikTok, but we commit over here.
Well, why are we still here? Just sing. Just sing!
So, listen to it. It's amazing. I love this song. Shit.
I don't need the dancing. I don't need this. There's a lot of things that I could be doing. It's 1 a.m. right now. I could be asleep. I could be playing a video game. I could be watching a movie, reading a book, anything. Eating a burger. Something different, you know? But what I don't want to be doing is watching whatever this is. Sorry, I'm being mean. Let's get to the singing.
Anyway. He told me that much and now he's dead. Told me to kill my indulgences with a sharp blow to the temple. Pick up the phone, call and do everything he says. I could take a plastic camera.
Pause that. I think that truck did permanent damage. I'm not trying to be mean. Like, as an artist, you need to accept criticism. And my criticism is, this does feel like I'm witnessing somebody at a karaoke show after one too many Stellas. And you say you love Britain, you love the English culture. Well, it's clear to me you have had one too many Stellas. You've drunk it. You had a few pints of beer, and now you've gone to karaoke and you're giving your best Lovejoy impression. And look, you know, if I was at karaoke, I wouldn't sing along with you. I'd say, why is that weirdo here? But I would say, I wouldn't say anything, to be honest with you. I'd probably walk out. But, you know, it would be a scenario that I'm not really that, you know, surprised by. But what I would be surprised by is you actually genuinely trying to attempt to join a band with this voice. Like, I'm not trying to be rude. It's just not great.
You can make such a pretty picture. Oh, so happy. Oh, so happy. I'm pretty cool once you get to know me. I feel at some point I broke my mind. I'm always searching the silent type. How do you all make it look so easy? You open your hearts up so quickly it scares me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's something about singing when it's not great, and I was genuinely expecting something. We got the whole sub story. We got like, oh, my lungs blew out. I got hit by a truck, and it was really bad. I'm sure it was awful. I'm not knocking that, but I thought we were gonna get something. It's like when you see like footballers come back from like an ACL injury, and they've took the world by storm again. They're like the best player in the world. And it's like that was kind of what I was expecting. What I got was not that. This obviously, it wasn't the best, and it didn't really go down well, the comments either. Somebody said, holy shit, this is an original. Lovejoy in the Big 25. This video felt like an hour long, and there were a lot more mean comments that I'm not going to mention. But yes, to answer the question that I had earlier of, is this person trying to obsess over Wilbur because they want to join Lovejoy? I don't exactly think that's the case. There is a lot more of a realistic answer that we'll get to later on. But do I think this audition will actually help them join Lovejoy? No. No, I don't think they're going to be joining Lovejoy anytime soon. But alas, let's continue on with the lore of this superfan. Because with the continuous virality of him being known as the Wilbur Soot stan fan, whatever you want to call Tyler, it definitely was getting to a point of where so many people were seeing this person over the last year of 2025 to 2026. And of course, that led to more and more people seeing the TikToks about Shelby and Wilbur, and it led to more and more criticism, which again prompted Tyler to jumping onto TikTok to defend Wilbur, whilst also levying what, in my opinion, false accusations, ironically enough.
Let's talk Lovejoy, because I got shit to say. My last video is kind of popping off, mostly because people are sending it to each other to laugh at me, which is fine by me. Thank you for the views. But it's me doing a silly little audition in my bathroom for a band that probably doesn't even want a second vocalist, but I'm a bold motherfucker, and embarrassing myself in the right direction is kind of my thing. And full disclosure for people who don't know, the lead singer of that band does have abuse allegations. However, one, the person making those accusations has a history of making false allegations. Do we not remember Parker?
Now this person says, do we not remember Parker here? And that really confuses me, because something that Tyler has stated that we will get into later on is they did discover Wilbur in 2019. And the false rumors of Parker that they're talking about here is something that comes from around 2016 to 2017 when Shelby was dating somebody called Parker. Now I did my best to look into this, and I have heard about this rumor before that Shelby has leveled false accusations against other previous partners, and from what I can see is this actually seems to be a bit of a misinformation campaign to discredit Shelby in her accusations against Wilbur. You see, I found these tweets right here when I searched up about this and was doing research, and basically there were multiple tweets about it, and every single tweet that I could find had no evidence to suggest that any of this was true, and most of the tweets were just denying any of this is real and basically stating that Shelby did not levy any false accusations or any accusations in general against this Parker person. I even found a Wilbur stan, ironically enough, saying that she deleted this accusation out of shame, but then people from the era of 2016 to 2017, from when this supposedly took place, came to the defense of Shelby, stating that this never happened. And again, I'm welcome to being, brought information about this, but from what I can see, there really seems to be no actual history of it. I did my best looking into this, but there really is nothing. So what we have is Tyler, based on my information, is just outright lying about this and using this as a way to discredit Shelby, which again is just flat out disgusting. It's dishonest and it's just grim victim blaming. Now after this, he does just go through the same things that he's gone through previously that we don't really need to take a look at right now. But yeah, it was clear that even with a wave of new people coming to his page, he was going to double down over this. And of course, it did not go down well for him.
I have built my platform by being authentic, kind, compassionate, and honest with the people who watch me. And regardless of what I may allow people to think about me, I am not naive and I am certainly not stupid. All of my major life decisions are carefully thought out and carefully considered. If there was a single atom in my being that thought Lovejoy was actually made up of horrible people, I would not touch it with a 40-foot pole.
So I'm meant to rely on this person's judgment, despite we've clearly seen that they are willing to defame and lie about somebody in order to pretty much just continuously defend this content creator that they have a bit of a creepy obsession with. Personally, I'm not going to really listen to you. And what's interesting is when people are mentioned who have allegations against them, like Melanie Martinez, Tyler says he absolutely does not support Melanie. But it's like confusing to me because it seems with literally every single accusation out there, this person supports them. But when it comes to Wilbur, that is when the line is drawn. And again, I think it does come down to the fact that this person is obsessed and it is clearly developing or is just outright a crush, which we will get confirmation on later. But this person has gone on to make multiple TikToks about Lovejoy and wanting to join Lovejoy and how they've basically obsessed over this band and wanting to be a writer in the band. And look, based on what I've seen, I don't exactly think this would be a good addition for Lovejoy.
Lovejoy is legitimately the only band that I cannot listen to without wishing I was in the band, which is kind of strange because I'd give anything to be in just about any band. But with most great bands that I love, I just want to be a fly on the wall during the writing process. I just want to observe, I want to pick their brains, I just want to know how they do it. But every single time I hear a Lovejoy song, I feel like I need to roll up my sleeves and be in it. And I could just wax poetic for literal hours about why I feel that way. But I think the main thing is that every song feels like every person put an equal amount of effort. Like with a lot of bands or musicians, you can tell what they think is most important to a song. Like you can totally tell when one person does a bulk of the writing, because usually things get thrown to the wayside. A song that's written by a guitarist is probably going to slack on lyrics and such. Songs written by a lyricist is probably going to let one of the instruments down. But with Lovejoy, you can tell that every single person is writing the parts they want to play, and they seem like they're all having equal amounts of fun with the actual songs, which I like. And I feel like the only part of every song that feels less important than everything else is like the vocal melodies. And absolutely zero hate to Will Gold. He's very good at what he does, and I love listening to him sing and talk and everything else. But every time I hear a Lovejoy song, I just want to I just want to sprinkle some good stuff in there. Because vocal melodies are my thing. I can't sing a song without changing it a little bit most of the time. Just gotta make it more interesting and fun to sing. Now, every time I hear a Lovejoy song, I just want to take it, run it through my brain, and then rinse it off like I'm developing film. Not to seriously change anything, because again, it's all great music. Just to give it that little extra bit of sparkle that I feel like some of them are missing.
The audacity of this person is genuinely crazy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I've listened to a few Lovejoy songs before everything happened, and I genuinely thought the music was pretty decent. And it is hilarious to see somebody with really no musical history in terms of actually producing anything of worth come on here being like, I'm gonna fix everything, I'm gonna add that little bit of sparkle. It's like, bro, we've heard your music, and regardless of everything we've spoken about today, I don't think this guy's going to be adding anything significant to the band if he ever did join it. But also, this is a big thing that a lot of people have been speaking about in regards to Tyler. He's a very egotistical person. He's definitely very self-centered, very self-obsessed. And look, I'm very much for bigging yourself up and stuff. But with this person, I think it is a little bit more funny considering their obsession with Wilbur Soot. I do just think it somehow just amplifies it. You know, kind of how any other content creator who gets credited, like Onision, who we mentioned earlier. If Onision did something where he was like, I'm going to become a successful artist, I'd laugh at him. I'd laugh at him because that's funny to me because it's Onision. And I think this is funny because this is Tyler and we've seen what we've seen. But also, another thing to point out here that you just saw in that TikTok is how Tyler uses Wilbur's name as Will Gold.
And absolutely zero hate to Will Gold.
He uses his official government name, and this is something that has drawn a lot of, not criticism, but more confusion from a lot of people out there, and a lot of people have basically speculated that he says this to kind of make it look like he actually knows Wilbur. And from researching this video, I've started to call Wilbur Will. I don't know him like that. I'm not going to call him Will. I want to call him Wilbur. But the amount of time Tyler Catastrophe, when speaking about Wilbur, says Will Gold, the amount of times he says it is genuinely crazy. And I do think it comes down to the fact that he wants to almost have this personal seeming connection with Wilbur. But obviously, it does just come off as a little bit odd. Now, in terms of actually, meeting Wilbur and meeting Lovejoy, this is actually something that did happen in November 2025 after Tyler actually managed to get hold of a VIP ticket for Lovejoy because there was also 2,000 other tickets available.
So I met Lovejoy last night.
But yeah, Tyler goes on to claim that apparently Lovejoy instantly recognized him, and I don't exactly think that's a shock. They just need to turn their head to the board of do not let in, stalker, and they'd see his face.
So I met Lovejoy last night. Mark recognized me and my roommate, which was fun. Love that guy. Also, sorry about the slide whistles, Mark. They'll be silly, it'll be fine. But there were also several other people from TikTok who recognized me, which is always fun. Love it when that happens. It's always at shows, and I love that for me. But they know about the audition video. They didn't ask me to join the band, but it's fine. They seem to be doing pretty okay without me, at least. Also, side note, the number of people who took that I'm so serious as I'm so serious, wild to me. Do you not hear my voice? Of course I didn't think they were going to actually want me to join the band. I was bored and views were low. The world was my oyster.
But you've been saying, like, you want to be a writer, you want to have some sparkle, some cheer. You were being serious. This is like when somebody says something and they get proven wrong or just, dismantled in an argument and then they just go on to claim it was bait. It was rage bait. No, you clearly really want to join this group. Don't lie to me.
Anyway, but I mentioned that video paid my electric bill, generally the most money I've ever made from a TikTok. And Mark's response was, damn, maybe I should audition for Lovejoy. But because Will's been more mobile on stage this tour, just like moving and bouncing and twirling around, I gave him one of those straps that like connects to the back of your head so your glasses don't fall off. Like, these might be helpful, but it will not hurt my feelings if they're not. But the look on this man's face when he had to tell me that he actually broke his glasses, which, I'm sorry I wasn't there several days before. This is totally on me. I'm so sorry. But Andy explained how they worked, and I usually wear contacts to shows, as I was last night. And Will was like, oh, you do shows? And there was a brief half second of crippling sadness because, no, not anymore. Because of the whole getting hit by a car thing. Soon, someday, I will not rest until I'm a musician again. But I mentioned my titanium ribs, and Mark's response was, well, at least next time you'll bounce right off. I mean, the goal is that there won't be a next time, but you never know. Thank you, Mark. And at this point in my life, I've seen hundreds of bands live. I'm friends with a lot of bands. I've met a lot of bands. And at some point, you realize there are some things that you really just can't fake. And Lovejoy is one of those bands that I genuinely have no issue standing by. And obviously, I've already made plenty of my opinions known at this point. But I work really hard to not say shit I don't mean, especially publicly on the internet. And there will be no retractions today. So here, have a picture. Also, Will is wonderful at selfies. Thank you for this. I always feel a little weird letting other people take the photo because I'm so used to specific angles of my face. Gee, I wonder why. But this is a good one. I like it. Anyway, this is your sign. Buy the tickets. It'll be great. Okay, love you, bye.
So yeah, it very much was a positive interaction, and look, I'm not going to really say anything negative about that. Did these things actually take place, or were they actually just happening in his mind? I guess we'll never know. But yes, apparently he did actually finally get to meet Lovejoy, and it was a lovely, positive experience, and they even recognized him. Probably because, again, they saw him on the Wanted poster. But alas, they saw him and they recognized him, apparently, and it was a really, really good time. But what's interesting is only shortly after uploading that video, he made another video where he goes on to claim that he was watching somebody work and he accidentally called them adorable and he regretted it because you shouldn't flirt with somebody who's working. And obviously, he doesn't name the person in this TikTok, but some people were wondering, who is this about?
I accidentally called this man adorable and I nearly bit off my tongue. Because I've been crushing on this guy for clearly too fucking long. And I used to be an attractive woman, alright? Flirting with men, not hard. And here I am, standing right in front of him, channeling See You Again by Hannah fucking Montana. Looking everywhere but at him because he's working and I wear my heart on my fucking face. And I think I'm doing okay. I'm not flirting. I'm trying real hard. Because you don't flirt with people when they're working. They can't comfortably tell you to fuck off. That's not okay. He could have. I would have let him, but he doesn't know that. And he makes one tiny little silly mistake, hits the wrong button, it's fine. And he says something along the lines of, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm stupid. And what comes out of my fucking mouth? You're adorable. It's fine. Somebody put me down. Because listen, I can make a fool of myself. I can embarrass myself, no problem. I make videos on the internet for a living. It's fine, no one cares. But if I had made this man uncomfortable, I'm jumping. All right, I'm done. Take me out. That's it. And this happened like a week ago. I've been thinking about this for days. Who allowed this? I am 26 years old. Why is having a crush right now so embarrassing? Never in my life have I been so verbally lost in front of a guy. Clearly there is no coming back from this. I'll be thinking about this forever, probably. I would say pray for me, but I think we all know I'm a lost cause at this point. Okay, love you, bye. This man looked at me like he wanted me to look at him, and oh no.
So yeah, obviously, a lot of people instantly saw this in February 2026 and were thinking to themselves, I don't even need to say who was he talking about. I think it was very clear that this person had finally begun to express the reality behind everything. Because we've been wondering, why would somebody keep on doing this? Even if they truly do believe the things that they're saying, they're just getting lambasted on social media every single day. What's the benefit? Just hold your beliefs and leave and do something else. Is it because they want to join Lovejoy? Well, we've seen them claim that actually they believe that they won't join Lovejoy. So, well, the real reason that this person is clearly doing all of this is because, I've said it briefly before, they have a crush on Wilbur Soot. And yeah, that was only confirmed later on in February 2026 when they admit to having a crush on Wilbur, and that crush has lasted since 2019.
I have had a crush on Will Gold since 2019 when I heard him laugh in the background of someone else's video and it felt like life itself leaned in to listen. Which is really inconvenient for me because I am very much a one soul at a time kind of person, so once I develop a crush, virtually no one else stands a chance ever. And at the time, I had just broken off a terrible engagement to a guy who didn't even f***ing like me. And since then, I have only briefly dated one other person who was wonderful, but it didn't work out. And so in all of that time, regardless of how many people have tried and been interested in me, I have not been able to find the interest for any single one of them. Because I have a f***ing crush on a guy I have interacted with once. And I don't even officially know his sexuality.
I don't know if anyone else agrees with me, but I think this is a really weird thing to say. I think it is very weird to start even just briefly speaking about the sexuality of a person who you have a crush on. Having a crush on a celebrity is a pretty normal thing. Like, I think a lot of us have had, minor crushes here and now, fancied somebody because you thought, they're attractive on TV or something like that. But I feel like instantaneously, this is something very different to just a simple crush. He's basically said here that he could not get crushes on other people in his real life because he had now developed this crush for Wilbur Soot, and that has lasted now for 7 years. That is genuinely concerning, and the way he speaks about it and how he seemingly can't develop new relationships because of it is absolutely wild, but it does answer a lot of questions that I had. Why is he willing to risk everything in order to victim blame Shelby? Well, it's because he has a crush, a really, really weird and obsessive crush.
That's a whole other thing, and I have tried so hard to move on from this, to let it go, because I want so badly for it not to cross over into parasocial territory.
It crossed over into parasocial territory a very long, centuries ago, millennia ago. It crossed over into that territory. This is no longer a parasocial relationship. This is a parasocial dictatorship. You are obsessed with this individual. You have done everything you can to slander another individual to the point of actually spreading out lies about other false accusations, and you've dedicated your entire profile to this man for an incredibly long period of time, from when you were around 21 years old and you're now 27. Do you not realize this is not a minor parasocial thing? This is as parasocial as it gets.
But in the 7 minutes that we spoke to each other, one, every time we made eye contact, I thought my heart was gonna burst out of my chest and fly away. Two, I was so nervous that my head just shut off and my mouth had a mind of its own. And anyone who knows me and has ever met me knows that I don't get nervous about people. What the hell was that? Three, he somehow managed to make me want to write music again, something I have not done since my last band broke up in 2019 and I got hit by a car and couldn't sing anymore. And I can sing again now. It took several years, but I got it back because I'm amazing. But how dare you pull my spark back out from underneath the ashes I spent years burying it under because it hurt too much to think about. In 2 sentences. It's rude. And 4, he failed to take a selfie with me because he was operating on iPhone settings and I have an Android, and I accidentally called him adorable and immediately wanted to swallow my f***ing tongue. Because you don't flirt with people when they're working. That's rude. I paid to... I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. And my point is, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, this is really weird. And also, I feel like the reason Wilbur didn't take the photo wasn't because phones were messing up. Anyone knows how to use an Android or an iPhone. There's a camera app with a camera logo. You click, you press the button. I feel like the reason that he didn't take a selfie with this person is either Wilbur did not want to take a photo of this person, or this didn't even happen. Now, obviously, we're never going to know unless Wilbur gives his account of it. Realistically, I'm not actually that interested in knowing, But I think it's very clear that this person is obsessed to a disturbing extent. To have your heartbeat going at the rate he said it was over somebody he had just met, somebody he had never spoken to up until that point, is genuinely very, very weird, especially considering this person is 27 years old. I'm not saying you can't have crushes at 27 or fancy celebrities at 27, but if you're genuinely getting like heart palpitations at seeing a celebrity who you've never spoken to, that's as concerning as it can get. And it only continues from this point. He just continuously confirms to me why he has done everything that he has done, and it's because he is in a parasocial relationship with Wilbur.
Hills, and my point is, it's a whole thing that I would like to no longer have to deal with. And all of this is made worse because I have been recognized at every single concert I've been to in the past year and a half, including 2 of his. And I've been on the Lovejoy Nation podcast twice. So no matter how many times I try to sweep this out of the rug and move on with my life, there's always that little thing in the back of my head saying, there's a non-zero chance. Oh my god. So basically, the way I see it, I finally say f*** it. I make this video, I say it all out loud to the ether that is the internet. Worst case scenario, he sees it, he says, hey, not for me. I move on with my life, it's fine. I'm an adult, who cares? I'll take a no over uncertainty any day of the week. Neutral option, nothing happens. Oh well, I guess. Best case scenario, you know? Because honestly, it doesn't matter what I'm doing any day ever for the rest of my life. If he was like, hey, do you want to get dinner or something? I'd say yes. Obviously, I'm delusional. It's fine. But at this point, I'm just so over the not doing anything about the things that I want. You know? What's up with that? No one gets anywhere that way. So f*** it. I've said it out loud. What else is there to do at 9 p.m. on a... Is it Friday? I think it's Friday. Anyway... It is what it is, I guess. Okay, love you, bye.
I think the most concerning thing about all of this is what it really indicates to me is this guy doesn't actually have real interest in Lovejoy. He only has interest in wanting to be with Wilbur. He wants to be that person's partner. He wants to engage in a relationship with that person. He doesn't know this person, and he is speaking about this person in this bizarre way. And some could say, well, other people do that with other celebrities, and yeah, I think it's weird. I think it is weird when there is a content creator and you are speaking about them in that way. You're not celebrating the content that they make, and even if you were, the only reason you're doing that, you have just shown us, is because you want to actually be with that person. Obviously, a crush is very different to what this person is saying. They have dedicated their life to this individual, put relationships on hold because they want to be with this person who they have met for 7 minutes at a show that they paid to go to with a VIP ticket. It's weird, and I'm sorry if that seems demeaning or derogatory, but it is weird, and if I had a fan or a stan who was like that, I would pull them aside on social media. I would not go anywhere near them in real life and say, hey, that is very, very concerning. Please detach yourself from me. I don't want this parasocial connection. And look, I'm not saying anyone's got a crush on me. I don't think that's physically possible. I'm doing the self-deprecation thing there. I'm sure someone does, maybe. But just don't make it parasocial, all right? Just don't do it. But no, jokes aside, obviously, this is just very, 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 very weird. And another thing a lot of people were pointing out in the comment section is, why does this person keep on referring to him as Will Gold? And it's what I mentioned earlier of, I think they're desperate to kind of pretend that they actually know the individual. It's almost like they're trying to force it into reality, you know, fake it until you make it. That's the vibe I get from this person. They're seemingly trying to act like they now know Wilbur because they paid for a VIP ticket. But it's like, no, anyone on planet Earth could have met Wilbur at that event. They just needed to pay the extra money to get a VIP ticket. You're not special. You're not unique in this situation. You are just a hyper-obsessed fan. But what's crazy is after this, he got a lot of criticism for this. Obviously, a lot of people were calling him weird, creepy, and as you can imagine, he didn't retract his statements. He simply doubled down.
I do know there's a difference between embarrassing and morally wrong, right? They're not the same thing. Because, oh my god, it is so not that serious. Is it embarrassing to publicly admit that you have a crush on someone? Yes. Is it also embarrassing to admit the person you have a crush on has a larger following than you do? Yeah, sure. But having a crush and feeling emotions about a person you don't know is not inherently wrong. I'm not out here writing self-insert fanfiction or building a shrine to our love in my fucking closet.
I actually think it is kind of weird to have not a crush, as I said earlier. I think it's fine to have a crush, but I think it is weird to do it in the extent that this person is doing. Like, we know that this person is paying for VIP tickets to go to a show because he's hoping that they're going to establish some form of relations with that person. And look, I'm not stupid. I know a lot of people have done that with celebrities in the past and influencers in the past. They're hoping that maybe there'll be a chance. But I definitely think it is concerning that there are people out there that have just dedicated their entire lives to people to do it, you know? That's what this person is doing. As I said, and as they said, they've put off relationships because of their obsession and crush. At what point, as I said, is that not a crush and just an outright obsession?
I said that I had a crush on a guy who I do not know, and that we met one time, made eye contact, and it gave me butterflies. I said it in a way that wasn't strictly literal, because I'm an artist and a poet, and I like to say the pretty words, and y'all are out here acting like I trained an AI chatbot to talk like him. And for the record, we are strictly against AI in this house, just so you know. But are y'all really so online that you forgot that being human is allowed? Yes, he's successful, and there are other people who want him, and he has a larger following than me, and I've had a crush on him for more than a couple years. But he is just a guy. He is just a guy. And yes, having a crush on him makes it hard for me to have a crush on literally anyone else, because he is proof that all the qualities I want in a partner exist as one coherent person.
Now, to claim that this person has all the qualities in life that you see or want in a partner it's genuinely crazy, because you don't know this person. You've met them for 7 minutes. You cannot understand the entire qualities of a human being that you've just seen on the internet via social media content. You watching this right now, the viewer, you do not know me personally. You do not know every single quality or negative thing about me. You only know me for what I want you to know. I put my social media posts up. I post 9,000 photos a day of my dog on my Instagram story. I never follow me if you really want to. And yeah, that's what people know me for. But if you said to me, oh, I know you for every single quality that I see in a man or want in a man, I'd say you're fucking crazy, because you don't know me. You've not experienced my life or been with me or as a friend throughout the days of the week. We've not hung out. So how would you know about me? You only know about Wilbur, Tyler, because of his social media posts, which are the best possible versions of himself that he wants you to see. I think it's very, very weird that this person has admitted again that they've put off relationships and crushes on other people because they think that they know this person because of what they've posted on the internet. That is genuinely insane.
And why the fuck would I want to settle for someone who doesn't have those qualities when I know that those qualities exist? But I'm not out here saying that he's the only person who's allowed to date me. He's the only one who's allowed to try, and if I just wait long enough, he'll fall in love. No! If he asked me out, I would say yes. That is all I said. Having a crush might be embarrassing, but it is not weird, it is not wrong, it is not stripping someone of their rights. It is looking at a person and saying, hey, I really like that person. It would be cool if they liked me too. And that is all it is. It's fine. This is disgustingly parasocial. Do you know what parasocial means? Do you? Because having a crush on someone is not inherently parasocial. Convincing myself that he also has a crush on me and that he wants to marry me, that would be parasocial. Because I don't know the guy.
Yes, and that's why this is parasocial. You don't know the guy, and you've said to us that you've put off relationships. That is the very definition of what parasocial is. A parasocial relationship is a one-sided bond where a person invests emotional energy, time, and interest into a media figure, such as a celebrity, influencer, or fictional character who is unaware of their existence. That is exactly what you have done. You have told us that you know about all of the qualities of this person, and that is why you cannot date any other person, because they do not have the qualities that Wilbur has. That you know Wilbur, apparently, because you seem to think that you know all of their qualities. That is emotional investment in a human being that you do not know. The very definition of parasocial. But as you're going to see, this person refuses to admit that.
Convincing myself that he also has a crush on me and that he wants to marry me, that would be parasocial. Because I don't fucking know the guy. And that's not what I fucking said. But the thing that really gets me is that everything I said in that video, I have said several times in other videos. I just didn't put a name to it. And the second I put a name to it, y'all start acting like I'm an obsessed stalker who knows everything about him and is following him around the town. Oh my god. I just have to keep reminding myself that so much of the internet is teenagers who don't know anything of the outside world other than, like, their school, their house, and their little sphere of the internet. And, like, I get it. There's nothing wrong with that. We've all been there. But oh my god, y'all are frustrating.
Again, bringing up the idea that teenagers can't understand anything. Hey, I actually think teenagers can understand that what you're doing is incredibly weird. And if I was 15 years old and saw you on social media, I'd probably comment, hey man, you're a little bit odd. You're a little bit weird. And hey, as a 28-year-old man... 29. As a 29-year-old man... as a 29-year-old man, I can say that you are an odd fella. You're genuinely concerning and weird, and I think you need to detach yourself from social media. Please just realize this is not appropriate. What you are doing here is genuinely odd, and I think if Wilbur saw it, even he would think to himself, hey, I think this is a little bit uncomfortable. So bringing up teenagers and children as a way to once again push off criticism is hilarious, because you have a grown-ass man right now saying to you, buddy, this is weird. This is odd behavior, and you are in a parasocial relationship right now.
Just scroll. Just move on with your lives. And just before I end this video, I would like the record to show that not only do I have more followers now than he did when I first found his content, but also I know who I am. And I know I can pull. And thinking to myself, hey, I bet if this guy knew me, he'd probably like me back. If there's a chance. Is also not parasocial. It's just thinking. I am going to eat this lamp. Y'all. Stop it! Oh my god! I will be 27 in a month, and I pay my own bills, and I live in my own apartment, and at least a third of my job is making videos on the internet and embarrassing myself for fun. I know the difference between right or wrong, and I know where to stop before the bit becomes weird. Okay, love you, bye.
Now, I love that he at the end there says that he knows when to stop the bit when it's weird, but you've told us multiple times now that you've not pursued relationships and crushes because you seem to think that you know an individual that you've met for 7 minutes because you bought a VIP ticket. I really actually want to know what he means by getting too weird, because I'm genuinely concerned about what that could actually entail. And again, this TikTok just really pushed Tyler into pretty much everyone's algorithm. Like, I had seen this TikTok before I even started making this video, and I was wondering, who is this person? And without any of the context, I thought to myself, yeah, I want to steer clear from this person. Now, maybe they've actually seen my videos because they mention Onision, and you know, if they're a detractor on Onision now, maybe they watched a bunch of anti-Onision videos, and I was very much a part of that back in the day, and I'm actually working on another Onision video right now, so maybe they've seen me, and maybe they are watching this video, and I will say, buddy, you need to stop doing this. Like, it is weird, it is wrong. I know I keep on repeating myself. We will move on from this in a second, but I think it's fair to say it's not just children that find this creepy. It's basically everybody. There's a reason that there's a video out there right now with 1 million views about a Wilbur Soot stan in 2026. But what's interesting is only recently Tyler has actually made the claim that actually a lot of the things that he has said in regards to Wilbur has just been exaggerated for content purposes.
Been following me for a while, chances are you actually know who I am and you don't need to hear this. But for the new people, I have posted thousands of videos over the past 7 years? About myself, about my work, about the things that I believe in. And sometimes that means saying shit that other people disagree with. And right now, Twitter wants you absolutely obsessed with misinterpreting less than 10 of them. And the thing about trying to tell people who someone is that doesn't really hold up when that person has been showing you who they are for 7 years. And all of those people who want to see you frothing at the mouth, sending hate comments and death threats, do not know who I am. And they certainly haven't seen enough of me to know. I put beads on a string for a living and I talk to my phone, and I have never been anything but kind, respectful, and compassionate.
I mean, you openly lied about Shelby spreading false allegations about another previous partner, so no, you haven't been compassionate, and in fact, you've been victim blaming your entire career based around defending this guy that you've got a crush on and obsess over. So no, excuse me if I don't believe your claim of being a compassionate and lovely human being.
A little bit sassy now and then, but who isn't? Look at any of my other videos, look at how I interact with people in the comments, because if there's one thing staying completely consistent, it's that I'm not horrible. You can disagree with me, you can not like me, you can believe whatever you want to believe about me, but I will not believe it for you. I stand by what I said because I know I'm coming from a place of integrity and experience. The only person I'm obsessed with is me because I'm amazing. And sitting here expecting me to bend, to pretend to be someone I'm not just so that you can justify the way you're treating me, is simply not how I do things. So whether you're here about a video about a crush that I exaggerated for entertainment purposes, or from a 2-year-old video where I encourage people to think for themselves and consider that there's a lot of information they don't know.
So yeah, he claims that he exaggerated things for entertainment purposes, and also he goes on to the thing about Shelby there. And honestly, I think this is absolutely hilarious. And I think that it is very clear that at this point of time, things were starting to get to Tyler. It's clear that he very much was getting frustrated, that he was getting a barrage of criticism, mainly due to the fact that he had been saying a lot of horrible things about Shelby, and his continuous defense of Wilbur, whilst also revealing that yes, this all comes from the fact that he has a crush on this individual. It is very interesting that out of everyone else, out of all the other influencers in the world that he doesn't have a crush on, he seems to, as we saw with Melanie Martinez, be against them. But when it comes to the person that he has a crush on, he is going to go all out to make a defense. And it all does culminate in this TikTok right here, where once again, he addresses the fact that yes, he has a crush on Wilbur, whilst also responding to criticism. And at the time of recording this video of, April the 15th, 2026, it seems that he hasn't actually made a follow-up TikTok since, and of course he will eventually do that, he'll eventually post more, but this is basically meant to be the ending of this story. There are plenty of other things that I could get into, but I think we should kind of wrap it up and come to an ending with this person talking about their crush once again, because it's the primary reason that he has done everything that we've gone through today.
I said I have a crush on a guy in a band who I do not know and have met once. And because I was not strictly literal in a video that was for entertainment, I have somehow become the target of a weeks-long ridiculous smear campaign that, frankly, I don't want to understand. And while part of me knows that it's probably smart to just hope it dies out, it just keeps getting worse, so I'm gonna say some shit. I am not the one stalking comment sections hoping to see someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one making fake accounts to stalk someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one making money off of lying and talking about someone I do not know. You are.
I mean, you literally are. You've bragged in this video about making money from TikToks before, and you would have made videos talking about Shelby in the way that you did. We've seen that you've spread lies and misinformation. So, sorry, but actually you have engaged in that activity that you're accusing other individuals of.
Bored and views were low. The world was my oyster. Anyway. But I mentioned that video paid my electric bill. Generally the most money I've ever made from a TikTok.
And it is hilarious because the rest of this TikTok is just basically him crying and whining and saying everything that's being said about him is a smear campaign. But it's like, no, everything being said about you comes from your own TikToks. That's what I find very confusing when influencers say this sort of stuff in their responses. It's like, bro, we're just reacting to your words. 90% of this video that I'm doing right now has been me playing your TikToks in full and then reacting to it.
You are. I am not the one making fake accounts to stalk someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one making money off of lying and talking about someone I do not know. You are. I am not the one writing fan fiction and making edits and drawing fan art and using AI to make slop of people I don't know kissing. You are. I'm not the one pretending to be related to someone just to spread lies. You are. I am not the one wishing death and torture and worse on someone I do not know just because they said they had a crush. You are. And I am most certainly not the one using AI to try and convince people on the internet that someone I have never interacted with is a That's 100% on you. I said that I thought a guy was hot and funny and interesting in a video where I was not strictly literal. And then I said that because I am confident and like myself, that maybe he would like me if he gave me a chance, if he was interested in men, because again, I don't know his sexuality. I do not care where he lives. I do not care who he's seeing. I do not care what he does for fun in his free time because it has no effect on my life. I have a physical type. He happens to be that type. I have very high standards. I do not want someone who does not meet that standard. That is all I said. And right now, the only reason most of my videos are still up is because I do not want to give people more room to lie. Clearly, all of those videos have missed such a large mark. I don't know how we got here. I don't want to know. But at this point, I have spent my entire life overcoming things that most people would never even have to imagine. And I spent a ridiculously long time being just the scapegoat for everyone around me. So I know that there are people who have no interest in the truth, no matter how big it is. And I know that there are people who will post anything that gets views. Consequences be damned. I actually left the creator program months ago because I didn't like the incentive it gave to like trigger people and start rage bait, and it's stupid. I don't like it. So really the only thing I have to say to the people who are using my name to get views and make money in a way that is not true and is very deceptive, I hope you plan to donate every single cent that you have made off of misrepresenting my character and using my name for views. To the ACLU, to Planned Parenthood, to the people of Palestine or Lebanon or the Congo or Sudan, to Indigenous or Black Lives Matter charities. You have a lot of options because frankly, every other problem on Earth right now is bigger and more important than a guy who has a crush on another guy. And while it would be nice to have a little more money, because I have goals of my own to work towards, I want absolutely nothing to do with any of that money. And otherwise, I hope you end up regretting every single cent you have made off of misrepresenting me. Because I am a good person. I am kind, and I do not deserve any of this. I believe that other people are mostly good. I believe that people can change when they have motivation to do so. And I hope that you all learn from this in the future because there's really nowhere else to go. I do not like being angry. And I am angry that I have been pushed to being angry. But I am angry. I'm angry for a lot of reasons. Angry to the point of tears because I have so many worse problems than this, and somehow we are still here. My birthday is this month, and as of that day, I will have been in pain for 7.5 years. Even in my dreams, I am in pain because someone hit me with their car at around 50 miles an hour, and I decided to keep living after it. I will be in pain for the rest of my life, and I have fought like hell to build a life that is worthy of that pain and worth going through it. And with everything else that I have chosen to survive, I don't think any of you deserve to make me regret that decision. So if you are only here hoping to see me crash and burn, go f*** yourself. And if you're here trying to see if what you've heard is true, it's not. You can look at everything I've said. I've left it all up. I stand by what I've said. Because even the worst thing they could find on me was me saying that they should think and consider carefully before allowing themselves to be used as an internet attack dog on behalf of people they do not know. Because there will always be information you do not know. I stand by that 1000%. Not sorry. And to Will Gold, on the off chance that you see this, personally, kind of hope you haven't seen any of it, but to you, I am sorry, because clearly, this has gone so f***ing far, and I didn't intend any of it. This whole thing sucks, and I don't like it. But other than that, I have no other apologies. because I have nothing to apologize for. So yeah, that's where we are now. I will continue working towards my goals. I will continue focusing on my business and the things that I love. And other than that, who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Oh my, why does this matter to you?
Now, I didn't really feel like interjecting in every single point in that response there, because I feel like this response here is basically a culmination of everything that we've gone through today. His interactions with how he handled the Shelby situation, his crush on Wilbur, in general, his social media career and how people are reacting to it. And overall, this response is genuinely quite bad. And it again just comes down to the fact that he is not willing to take any responsibility whatsoever. And is it really a shock given everything that we've gone through today? And yeah, I feel like this guy is just going to continuously make more content, obsessing over the fact that he loves Wilbur Soot. Well, maybe not loves, actually no, he does love Wilbur Soot. Who are we kidding here? But he definitely has a very concerning connection with Wilbur Soot, and I don't really think that's going to end anytime soon. To kind of wrap things up and conclude everything that we're talking about today, I feel like the moral of the story is it's fine to really enjoy a content creator, a celebrity, a fandom, being a part of that group of fans, and, you know, in some cases being considered a stan. I actually believe stans can be a great thing, and I think it can be a really fun thing, and I don't really think it's fair to kind of group every fan and stan up with people like Tyler Catastrophe. But I do think unhealthy obsessions can lead to situations like this, where you have somebody who is basically ruining their own life by not actually pursuing relationships because they have a crush on somebody that they've only met for 7 minutes at a VIP meet and greet. This story is very strange, and there is a lot more to it that I've not really gone through. This video is meant to just serve as a who is this person, why are people mad, and yeah, I think we've pretty much answered both of those questions. So thank you very much for coming along. Please let me know your thoughts down below. I would genuinely really like to know what you guys have to say about all of this. And yeah, please subscribe. Did I say please subscribe already? I'm quite tired. It's like 2 a.m. now. Thank you for watching. Please follow my Instagram at inabba. Subscribe to my podcast, which is all about video games, films, and TV if you really want to. It's the coffee. That's not a good advertisement. Please subscribe to it. It's the Coffee Club. Link in the description. And yeah, that's the end of that. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Please do not create a Stan account with my face on it. Bye-bye.